He's a mighty river. Hello today, and welcome to episode 7 of the Registered Nerd Podcast. Today I've got Snacks, Spaz, Webbed, and me, Guiltyspark. And I think today we're going to talk about video games and kind of the state of the industry and what we like and what we don't like and what we really, really hate.
That pretty much sums it up. I, I guess we'll start out with what got you guys into gaming? How long have you been gaming? Do you have like classic favorites, that sort of thing? So we'll just kind of go around the table here. Webbed, what got you into gaming?
Well, my dad bought me a Sega Genesis for my 3rd birthday. That was my first real, like, oh my god, what is this thing? I had no idea what the heck it was. I was totally surprised. It blew my world. But what got me really into like PC gaming, which is what I really identify with, is Warcraft 2 and Command and Conquer. Both RTSs. I had friends, close friends, that had them, and I was like, what are these? This is so cool. Just sucked me in. Like, that's all I wanted to do is just like go over there and play fucking Command and Conquer and Warcraft 2 on their computer. And they're like, don't you want to do anything else when you're over here? I'm like, nah, let's just play this game. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, they kind of gave me that look, like,
For hours and hours.
I remember that. I remember those days.
So, which, I mean, that's kind of how I got into World of Warcraft, because I loved the story, even like in Warcraft 2 and all that. So, like, I bought Warcraft 3, like, the day it came out, came home, installed it, played it for hours. World of Warcraft, I had to, like, get it first day, like, check it out. What's this? I had no fucking clue what I'm doing. I'm playing a druid, and I'm, like, going balanced, but I have, like, strength gear and fucking agility gear. And, like, also, I got a fucking mace
leather belt
with, like, a +2 damage enchant on it, because I'm like, this looks cool. I have no idea
You're playing a healer with more HP than MP, you know?
Right.
Well,
so
that was before all the the massive popularity of World of Warcraft spawned all those aggregated sites, all the data mining and stuff like that. I mean, it existed before.
Yeah,
but not to that extent.
When I discovered those, like, I got better at it. But for me too,
Barely.
like, I have friends like Bryce. Bryce has older brothers who game. I feel like you kind of like pick up some things a little bit, just having older. I was the oldest, so like I just was figuring it out. And my brothers are not nerds at all, so like we didn't have any sort of like common ground with gaming or anything in my house. That was my thing. So my brothers are like, you're a nerd, whatever. So that was my like.
Well, I think mine, when it comes to PC gaming, was a lot like Webbed. I was really into the RTS games, like Age of Empires and particularly Age of Empires 2. I I've probably bought that game 15 times. I've lost the disc. I bought it again. I've reinstalled it. Thank God now for Steam, I can stop buying it. But yeah, on Steam I have I think 250 hours of it, and I think that's the version of it I played the least. Um, and my buddies and I would just hang out, and all day we would just do battle after battle after battle, and Command and Conquer 2, and Warcraft and Warcraft 2 and StarCraft 2. Um, well, StarCraft 1 when I was a kid. We used to play StarCraft all the time. Um, but before that, before I really got into PC gaming, before my family had a PC that was good enough to do any of that, I had my Nintendo 64. And the day I got my Nintendo 64, I still remember it was Christmas, and it was like one of the best days of my life. Until I found out that our TV did not have component connection. So I opened it up and I couldn't play it for like 2 days,
It had
and I was
the
begging my parents.
RF connector.
Yeah,
That
I was
was
like,
yeah.
can we go to the store and get the right connection? And they're like, it's Christmas Day. There's no stores that are open. I was like, oh no. But when I finally got it up and working and playing Mario 64 and Star Fox and eventually down the road, Shadows of the Empire and GoldenEye, like some of my best memories from gaming are from that. And then in high school, like Halo, everybody used to play Halo. you could get 16 people together in one house and do tournaments, 14 tournaments for Halo, and that's something that just I don't think kids do today because everything's online. They just get on and play Fortnite, and yeah,
That's
we
one
we
game that my one younger brother will play with me is like Gold. He loved GoldenEye and Halo, those kind of Call of Duty. He'll play all that stuff with me. That's the only way I'll play like Call of Duty and stuff these days is
see
just have something to play with him.
I play GoldenEye sometimes. Like we were playing Source at Snacks's party a couple months back, and I don't think it holds up very well. Like you can play it as a novelty, but I think Halo really does. I think you can still go back and play like multiplayer Halo and Halo 2, and it's still a blast. I think play wise compared to a lot of the shooters that are out now.
Right. It's just now you go back and you don't go for the rocket launcher, you go for the pistol.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a big moment in everybody's like Halo life when you realize that the pistol is the best gun in the game.
Right.
It's like it was so counterintuitive because
A
no other
Magnum
game was
pistol
like
with a
that.
scope. Come on.
Magnum pistol
Right.
with a 2x scope. It was good. It wasn't the best at any range. It wasn't the best up close. That was the shotgun. It wasn't the best from extreme range. That was the sniper. It may have been the best at medium range, actually, now that I think about it. But it was the one gun that you could kill somebody at any distance in any situation. If you had the shotgun and somebody popped up like 50 meters away from you, you were like, well, I guess I'm dead before I can even change my weapon. Um, but with that pistol, you always had a chance. And if you could like two shot, three shot somebody in the head with that pistol, you were godly at that game. So
Right. I mean, Halo kind of factors into a lot into to my own kind of birth into gamerhood. It started back, God, when I don't even know how old I was. I was young enough that I barely remember it. And it was playing a game on my dad's computer. It was a DOS system, and it was this stupid little golf game, and it was hilarious. Like I can still remember it, but I loved that. I loved playing that. And then we migrated to the Genesis. Loved Sonic. I played all of that stuff. I had I think it was Sonic and Knuckles, where it had the cartridge where you could like connect another cartridge to it, and I was baffled by it. I never figured out how it worked because this was before we had the internet really as a tool, and but I continued to game, and it was never like it was never really a quote unquote gamer, but then I got into like junior high, and one of my friends, I still remember who it was, gave me a cracked disc for Counter-Strike, and it was
okay.
Counter-Strike. I want to say 1.4 or 1.5, one of the two. But I started playing Counter-Strike, and I loved it. And I was playing on dial-up, and it was garbage, and it was so much fun. I loved the game. And then we had eventually we got broadband pretty soon afterwards. I started, then Halo got big, and I remember when Halo 2 came out. I was in high school, and not just like my group of friends, but like everyone just kind of came together. It was a very unique moment. Everyone just kind of came together, and we set up the biggest LAN party personally organized that I've ever been to. And we had over 32 people in one guy's house. I remember his dad let us drill holes through the wall so that we could run Ethernet cabling. And everyone just piled in with TVs. One guy's dad owned a Little Caesars and showed up with like a stack of pizzas taller than he was. And we gamed for like 15, 16 hours straight. Like the sun went down, it came back up. We were all still awake, like looking like the weirdest little group of teenage refugees. It was so much fun. And that was kind of, I think, one of the founding moments of gaming for me. But then I moved to PC gaming.
Well, I think that's the thing that's special about Halo is I think probably all of us have a story similar to that with Halo.
Oh, yeah.
With just these massive LAN parties, everybody you knew was there, maybe people that you didn't even hang out with outside of that situation.
And we were
Oh, yeah.
friends after. It was
all the kids in my neighborhood and the neighborhood across the street got together back on Xbox One with the original Halo before there was
Yeah,
online play, and
Yeah.
we did
yeah,
like the console link.
Yes.
Like that was
that's
my
why you had
my
to get
big intro
together.
into like competitive gaming. Like we got super
Yeah.
competitive with each other. There was a couple guys who were like awesome with the sniper rifle, and I'm like, God damn, like I gotta get as good as these guys, you know?
Yeah, we always did the same thing, and we would have brackets. We would have tournament brackets, and we would have teams of four. And I remember when Halo 2 came out, we actually got together. I think we had 16 people, and it was teams of two, and that means we had 8 Xboxes in one house, and we weren't playing multiplayer. We all actually gambled. We put like I think each person had to put in $10, and your pairs of two, it was to beat the campaign. And the first team to beat the campaign won. I think my team, we came in like third. We were leading for a while, and then we didn't know the arbiter could cloak, and so that really slowed us down at one point because we could not get through this area, and everybody else was just like walking through with their cloak on. But yeah, I don't think you can say now. In some ways, I think that's the great thing about Halo One. I think Halo Two, when it all became online, with Xbox Live and everything, that's where we saw kind of the good and the bad. The good is, oh, you can play with your friends that maybe aren't around. But I think that was the beginning of the death of couch co-op, which is a big issue in gaming right now. Um, Snacks, what about you?
Well, my history goes back way like I started playing like NES and SNES like because my brother was obsessed with those when we were growing up. So I always was like, oh, he's so good at them. I want to be just I want to be able to play like he can. And so I played those games a lot. And then I never I never owned an N64. That was my biggest regret as a child. um, I asked for an N64 multiple years in a row, and I got a Dreamcast, which was a good console. It just wasn't what I wanted. Um,
Technically the superior system, just way
Technically,
before its
Yeah, as
time.
as far as
yeah,
hardware,
yeah.
um,
I mean I liked there was a lot of games on that I played. What got me into I eventually got into PC gaming right around when I graduated high school when I actually had money. Um, and my one buddy, our mutual friend Fox, helped me pick some parts out, and I built my first gaming PC. And I bought Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and what really got me into it was Left 4 Dead. When Left 4 Dead came out, I sank so much time into that game. Um,
well, that's
I
another one
never,
too that had
yeah,
really good co-op online.
yeah, I never really played much Halo because I didn't own an original Xbox either. I was the PS2 guy, you know, um, or the PlayStation guy. I didn't really have an Xbox. Um, but I had a lot of friends that did. I would go over there, and it was always fun. We would they would have their friends over, and they would do a LAN party. So I did get that experience. Um, and I did play, Warcraft and Starcraft, but those before getting building my own PC, those were the only games I played that were on PC beforehand.
Well, what was a little bit different than for me than Bryce's situation is, and I think most people my age is, I never did 2D gaming. Like the SNES and the NES, I never really played. I didn't get intrigued by it until it was 3D, like the Nintendo 64. And I obviously got the 64 and loved it. And I got the Dreamcast too, and I remember that was 9/9/1999 that came out September 9th, and that was such a great day. And then like 2 years later, the system was dead. It had just been completely crushed by the PlayStation 2.
Well,
Um,
the PlayStation 2 was, I mean, amazing.
I
They
I
I
guess
think the
of
last
all the
year they released a game for it was like 2012 or 13,
The
something like that.
PlayStation 2 just
yeah,
had the support of Sony behind it, and Sega just
right.
mismanaged everything to do with the Dreamcast. So
Well,
Wait,
that
wait,
was
wait. Sega mismanaged something?
no. Well,
Say
when
it's
you
not so.
when you learn the story of Sega, it's all about Sega North America making amazing decisions and having all these great ideas, and Sega of Japan coming in and ruining everything. That's the entire history of Sega. Like it just repeats over and over again until the company basically died and stopped making hardware.
speaking of my
So,
Sega, one of the games that got the most play not just by me, but like by my dad and my uncles and stuff. When I got it was, do you remember the game NBA Jam at all? Do you ever
Oh
hear of that
yeah,
game?
he's
Yeah.
on fire.
Yeah, he's on fire from downtown. Like,
Yeah, that was a classic. But I kind of was all over the place for my system. So I had my Nintendo 64 and I got my Dreamcast and really liked it, and then that died, and I decided, well, I got the GameCube next, and I remember playing Time Splitters, and Time Splitters was a really good game. I don't know if any of you played it. It was a shooter, but it was
I did
hampered.
play Time Splitters.
Yeah, it was hampered by the GameCube controller. The GameCube controller was not good for a first-person shooter because it didn't have a second joystick. It had that little mutant like C button thing that could only go in 8 directions. And so I went from playing that and I went over to a buddy's house who had just got an Xbox and played a little bit of Halo. And it was like, oh, well, I guess I have to get an Xbox now. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm pretty young and don't have any money, but that's the game. I mean, that was revolutionary. Like GoldenEye, the big moments in first-person shooters are like GoldenEye and then nothing for a long time, and then Halo was the next game to really really change the game. Especially for consoles where you had, two joysticks and it could actually, work. You could hit what you were aiming at.
going back
But
to your like couch um, multiplayer
co-op,
co-op,
yeah.
GoldenEye, man. I used to like bring my N64 to all our like hockey tournaments when we go away for the weekend, and like my room would be where everyone would camp out because everyone want to have like GoldenEye competitions. And it was great because actually the best part was like my little brother that again those are like the only games he likes. At like 5, he's beating like 10-year-olds at GoldenEye and just like crushing them, like fucking running around with the P90 like blasting people, and they're like, "Where are you? What's happening?"
And the
Well,
tradition of the P90 continues today in Counter Strike. It's the
Yep.
gun you don't need to know how to play in order to use.
spray and pray. I think
That's very true.
since we're starting to get into, some modern issues with gaming, I think that's one of the biggest things that where consoles have kind of lost their way because with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, these consoles are trying to be like mini PCs in the living room. They're trying to be all about online multiplayer, um, downloadable stuff, no multiplayer on the same screen. Now, I don't know if the strategy is, oh, we'll get them to buy multiple systems, but nobody's putting two PlayStation 4s in one house. Like that's just a ridiculous amount of money to spend. And I think that's where Nintendo is really doing it right. Is Nintendo on the Switch, a lot of those games are designed couch co-op for at least two people. A lot of them specialize in four people, and that's what console games are better at because you can sit on a couch with your friends and talk and have a drink and play a video game. Whereas PCs, that's a lot more difficult to do. Like, if you want a LAN party with a PC, that's a lot of effort to get everybody to bring their tower and their monitors to one house.
Yeah,
And I think
Snacks will never come
Nintendo's
over and play with me.
well, and that's the thing, and like,
Always,
and
I'll
PC,
always come over and play.
PC
Well,
is great for playing online like
I don't
that,
want to
and
play in that
console's
way.
never gonna beat it.
Yeah,
But
to add to the Switch thing, so I have a Switch and I have like Mario Kart, Mario. I just got Pokemon. My nephew, who's 7, is obsessed with Pokemon, which all the new generation Pokemon, I don't know much of them because I don't pay attention to it much anymore. But like the RPG, like the old games like Pokemon Red and Blue, I still love playing those. So I bought the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. It's freaking fun to play with him because he totally gets into it. You can co-op like couch co-op with each other. He just gets
yeah,
to control like another trainer. Like if you're the male trainer, like it makes the female trainer just run around with you, and they don't actually interact with the environment directly. But if you get into a
So
battle,
like real life.
yeah, like real life.
Jesus,
No, if you get into a battle, they can
Jesus,
help you.
Spaz.
And when you go to catch Pokemon, they can throw another Pokeball at the same time. And if you like time your throws at the same time, it gives you like a better chance of catching things. It's kind of cool. Like no one else does that
yeah,
right now. Nintendo's doing it though, and you can.
stuff like that is
I still
awesome,
only
and
have
that's
one controller. Like the I don't I didn't buy a pro controller. I haven't bought another one yet. I'm gonna have to get one for Super Smash when it comes out. But you can split the one controller that comes with the console in half and play like
yeah.
Mario Kart. I've taken it to work, and like when we're slow, it just at the nurse's station played like
Oh yeah, I've done the same
Mario
thing.
Kart with some of my coworkers.
Yeah,
So
it's
to pass the time.
Nintendo's really hitting it out of the park when it comes to couch co-op, and they're really the only uh, system that's doing that.
You don't even need a
Xbox and
TV with the
Sony have
Switch.
completely
It
lost their
has its
way.
own
Yeah,
built-in little TV. As long as you don't mind playing on the small screen. And for
but
two people,
let's
it's not bad.
let's talk about what Nintendo has fucked up. Nintendo has fucked up their internet, their online service, really badly. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
used it, but
there's nothing good I can say about that. I mean,
yeah, it's a complete disaster, and I don't understand that because Nintendo is so forward thinking and so out there in so many ways. But when it comes to if you do want to have online, and some games it is great for them to have online. If you do want to have that, there's a model to do it, and it's Xbox Live or PlayStation's online service. And I really don't understand where Nintendo's coming from with what they've done. Um, it's embarrassing. It's really bad. So none of these companies are perfect. That's for sure. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Um, for a long time, it didn't seem like Microsoft and Xbox One was having any strengths, but they've with kind of bringing in some of their back catalog and the fact that you can play a lot of old games on the Xbox, I think that's really where they're starting to excel.
yeah,
Um,
I mean, there really hasn't been any like current Xbox titles that I've been interested in. Everything that I've wanted has been multi-platform.
yeah,
Here's where they're going to succeed though going forward is because they're starting to focus on the the cross-platform between Xbox and Windows,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that's going to be their, I think, if it succeeds, if they do it correctly, that will be in my mind the thing that takes them past the PlayStation. I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah.
they
PlayStation's been
really.
resistant to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see them as in competition with Nintendo. Nintendo kind of exists on its own. Like, if I'm looking at consoles, I'm going, am I getting an Xbox or am I getting a PlayStation? And do I want a Nintendo? Because
Yeah, that's
yeah.
usually how I look
you
at
know,
it.
again, I don't do really any console gaming. It's not something that really interests
Well,
me. After
well now if you because you have a good gaming PC and because you can do 90% of what you want to play on the gaming PC, there's not really a reason for you to have a console.
right,
Like,
and my
and that's why Nintendo's doing a good job is because their console does focus on those things that you can't easily do with a PC.
yeah,
Whereas, like I said, Xbox and PlayStation are both trying to be just mini PCs that happen to plug into your television instead of your monitor.
right. Plus, with Steam and everything, like my gaming habits have gotten really eclectic. Like I like just playing like some weird stuff, some older stuff. Like I like kind of I wouldn't say buying in, but I like rolling the dice on some of the early access things, which is a whole other issue itself,
Oh
which
God, are we
we'll
going to talk
touch on.
about early access?
We can
Let's
touch on if you want.
Yeah, we could talk about early access.
I hate
I
the whole concept of early
I
access. I think it's been a
like it.
horrible detriment to gaming.
I think it depends on how you look at it. Early access for big companies is a just a cash grab in my mind. If a game company that I know is large enough and has funding is saying we're going to release this in early access so you can play it while we still develop it, that's wrong. If you have a team of like 5 people that's like we've been developing this in our off time from working in the coal mines, like that's where it's that's where you need it, right?
As
But I
long
think
as they
I
have the
think
right attitude for what they're doing, because there's people who are
Well,
small
right,
teams that are kind of again cash grabbing themselves and not
right,
putting
but
in
you
the
have to
effort
be
that they
smart
should.
well
enough, you know.
that's what I was gonna say. I think a lot of those and a lot of those smaller teams, it's almost like a con where maybe they come up with a good idea of like, oh, I think people be interested in this game. We have no idea what we're doing as far as programming. We don't have assets or anything like that. It's just an asset flip. And it gets a lot of people, and I think people are starting to smarten up about it, but I used to see a lot of people. There'd be a game with a great concept, and I would maybe try it or watch video of it and be like, "Wow, this is a dog shit game, and it's always going to be a dog shit game." And people would defend it and say, "Oh no, no, it's early access. It's going to get better." Like they're expecting it to turn into some sort of Grand Theft Auto 5 masterpiece when really it's like you want to grab them and be like, no, look at it, these people obviously have no talent, and the fact that you're putting money into this and you're expecting this outcome, I think a lot of people spent a lot of money on games that were never going to go anywhere, and a lot of people walked away with a lot of money that they didn't really deserve.
I'm just going off of what I remember, but I'm I'm looking at Steam's top selling right now by user reviews. So right now on the list is Factorio. Um, uh, I think Terraria was early access. Maybe not.
I think Terraria was.
Stardew Valley, RimWorld. I mean, that's just I don't know
I
about any of the other ones on the list right
I
now,
think for
but
me, the only like small independent games that were early access that I really liked is um, Kerbal Space Program, which was a lot of fun.
right,
I think there's a fundamental flaw though. Like take a game like Kerbal Space Program, where the the market is not very big for people that want to play a space sim with little cartoon astronauts, okay?
right.
There's a limited number of us that want that. So say everybody buys into that when it's in early access, 90% of people that will ever buy the game get excited about it. We all pay for early access. That pays for development for a time. And then it's easy for a studio to say, "Okay, we got all this money. Like we'll just we'll do one more patch and we'll call it good and that's the game." Because when you've already sold to 90% of the people that are ever going to buy your game, where's the impetus to keep
But
working on it?
that's implying that the market for the game isn't growing as well. If you create like how many people were interested in first person shooter games before Halo, right? That increased the interest. It increased the market for it. You have Kerbal Space Program, which they're using in classrooms now to demonstrate physics problems. For teachers are using that. You have that as a tool, and it gets people interested, and that interest grows the market.
But
And
I would say
so,
if you look at sales for the vast majority of these games, you get the big spike where, everybody that was interested in buys it, and then the amount of people buying it falls off, and then the developers stop doing updates, and they just go, "Oh, well, this is 1.0 of the game," when really the game is still an alpha piece of shit. I mean,
right, but
there's
then
good things and
but
bad things about it, but I think overall, like, I'm very skittish about buying anything that is in early access.
I think that there's something to be said about updates to a game though, because I two examples recent for me is um, No Man's Sky when it had its recent update back in earlier this year, not the Visions update that just came out, but the one prior to this. Um, I looked at it and I went, wow, they've really done a lot with this game. The price is lower now. I I'll buy into this. And then again, when um, for the division had a lot of problems on release. It had a full gameplay loop, but there was a lot of people that weren't satisfied by it. I enjoyed the game. I played through it. I got to max level. I finished the campaign. I dicked around a little bit with, quote unquote end game stuff. But then they continued to um, release content and update it and add new gameplay loops and new mechanics. And I came back and I bought the DLC and I played it and I really enjoyed it. And I feel like, I got my money's worth out of it. So I think
Well,
there's a lot to be said for continuing to update.
No Man's Sky was a game that was just clearly rushed. I mean, it was released in a completely unfinished state. Like, the core gameplay was working, but it just went nowhere. And then they did, obviously, like, if that game had released a year and a half, 2 years later, it probably would have been a best-selling game. But the fact that the way it released in an unfinished, buggy state, I hope some other studios learned from that, but I don't know if they did.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Bethesda did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna
that's too
say,
soon.
That's
what,
no,
well,
it's
one of the
not.
things that I was gonna talk about with early access. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Spark, uh, but I mean, you're taking a risk no matter what. You're investing in something that you're kind of interested in, but you don't know. The other thing is that like if it fails, usually early access games very rarely are they like a $60 investment. Usually, like they'll go earlier. Uh, you'll have a smaller buy-in than when the game is released.
Right.
Not always, but sometimes.
Yeah, it'll be
Um,
like 30 or 40 instead
It'll be
of
like
60.
it'll be like $20, and then on full release it'll be 40 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think so far, I think early access has produced a dozen or so really good games and an incredible amount of shovelware crap. And so, I have to be really convinced before I invest in it right now. I don't give it the benefit of the doubt anymore because on my Steam library I have a fair amount of games that looked maybe impressive, and then you realize after a couple updates, like, oh, these people, this is never going to go anywhere. These people really don't know what they're doing. So,
well, and then you have the also, like, if you know that, like, if you bought into this early access thing and you go, this thing sucked, they're not updating it, etc., and then, a year from now you see like the names attached to that product attached to another project, and you're like, well, I know what they did last time. I'm not gonna buy it this time.
Right.
So H1Z1, and
yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's a good
Exactly, yeah,
example.
But
I have a couple games like that.
That's a shocking example because
Right.
you expected. I mean, I don't think anybody really expected H1Z1 to go the way it did. It had, from what I remember, it had a good pedigree behind it.
Yeah. Well, even okay, let's look at a game that was successful that had kind of a similar startup, which is Battlegrounds. Okay, so Battlegrounds is a pretty garbage game as far as like the coding and the optimization. I think even to this day, and it's like it's weird. It got big in early access alpha, and so many people were playing it. And then one day they just slapped on. I think you and I were like, "Oh, they did the final release. I wonder if it'll be drastically different." And we played, and it was still a buggy piece of crap. We're like, "Oh, good job." It's like that's the problem of it is I guess people expect there to be a big change in quality from what you're seeing in alpha, and that's not really how gaming programming works. I guess it's a slow incline, and then they release it, and that's what it is. A
Well, I
game that,
mean, that's the thing, is that they didn't really feel like they needed to fix the game until after Fortnite released their battle royale,
Yeah.
and
right,
then
they had
everyone's
some
like jumping
competition.
over there because, it. I'm not saying that Fortnite is a perfect game, but it ran better. It certainly ran
Still
better,
runs
and
better.
Oh yeah.
it's got a stylistic, like a different style. And I mean, I think I don't know, maybe it's got more mass appeal to it just because it runs better. It kind of it's more fluid.
Well,
It's quicker.
It was free to
Fortnite
play.
was built.
That's why.
Fortnite was built off the bones of a real game, though. It was built off a
Right.
game that kind of failed, and then they said, "Okay, we'll make a battle royale version."
Which I was
So they already
salty
had
about.
working code. I was a little bit
Yeah, I
too.
know, because I bought Fortnite, or I bought into the early access for Fortnite, and I enjoyed like the building of the
Right.
the base
But it was
and
so
surviving waves and stuff.
microtransaction heavy.
Yeah.
Oh, it really was.
Which
Well,
brings
Spaz,
us to.
before we get into that, Spaz, a good one more game that I think is a good example of early access going horribly wrong is Ark Survival Evolved.
Yeah.
And
But
where
kind
Ark
of, but also no.
well, before Ark had even released, before they said, I mean, what does release even mean? If you can spend money on it and
It's
play it,
still
I call
a
it
buggy
release.
mess, man.
But well, it was still in alpha or beta or whatever they call it, and they said, "Oh, here's the DLC pack."
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
started releasing DLC for a game that was still supposedly in early access, and that was a moment where I just thought, "What the hell is happening to this hobby? Like, where do we go from here? This is absolutely terrible."
Mhm.
Well, and the other thing about early access is the worst part about them is the worst culprits are, like you said, the AAA developers that are that release a quote unquote full release game, but you can tell it's early access.
Fallout
Bethesda
76.
just did. Yes, exactly. I
We
was
knew
just getting to that.
we knew we were going
I
to
was-
get there eventually.
It is definitely a early access game, advertised as a full release. There's so many bugs. I mean, it's a Bethesda game, so you expect bugs, but like, it's so bare bones. It's very shallow.
Yeah, but Bethesda games having bugs is fine if it's a big, like Fallout 4 and Skyrim. Like, they're this huge world that you can explore with so much to do and things that are engaging. So you overlook that shit because you know they're gonna fix the little things that pop up.
Or if
You know,
they
modders
if they
will
don't,
fix it.
modders will fix
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
yeah. But
Well,
that's the thing is
well, this
76
is
doesn't even allow the modders to do anything. There's
Well,
no
No.
modding.
well, not yeah. Well, the thing is that the problem is that it's not a game made for Fallout fans, if that makes sense, because it doesn't have any of the well, I shouldn't say it doesn't have any
Story.
of it. Doesn't have all. It doesn't have all of the elements that make those Fallout games like attractive. Like
The
there's
story in the world
there's
and
no
the characters.
there's no real story. Your all your story is just audio codecs that you're just following for
And
a
that's
quest line.
and you're right, that's
And
not
and
story,
there's
it's
no
lore.
and there's no
here's my question: Would it be better?
There's no
Would it be better as a game if it had that though? It would still fail as a game from a lacking a gameplay loop to being a buggy mess. It would still like having NPCs and characters does not a game make in my mind. Like failing as a big studio like that, failing to fix bugs that have been there's a community fix for a specific bug that
Well,
has been
Spaz,
out for
you're
2
talking
years,
about
and it
Spaz,
has not been fixed in their engine yet. In this Fallout 76 release, a bug that was present and fixed by a community member for 2 years has not been fixed in the new release. That is a failure as a game studio.
yeah. Well, Spaz, you're talking about just bugginess and gameplay loop, and Snacks, you're talking about the game actually having a compelling story and a reason to play, and that's the insulting thing is it fails it both. That's amazing. The game fails in every aspect, and I haven't played it. I've watched a lot of people that I really
Well,
I won't
Snacks
say that
has
it's,
played it.
I was yeah, I play it. I have it.
I mean, what do you think?
I enjoyed playing with people. It's definitely not a game that I would ever recommend playing by yourself because it's pretty dull if you don't. But it's so shallow. There's not a whole lot. Like even the building, the crafting and stuff. It's all just to me is just bare bones and shallow. Like I said, it feels like an early access game like that I paid $60 for, and I would say that if you have an interest in it, I would wait until it's like $20 on a Steam.
It's already 30.
If you,
I know it's already 30. So
if you want,
I almost bought it on the Black Friday sale for like 30 or 35
Yeah.
bucks or whatever, just so I could play with you, Snacks. But I knew that would be the only way I
So
would play it,
I
is
would
if I
wait.
would play with you. I wouldn't play it by
Well,
myself.
I was really excited for
and
it.
I'd
I
rather
thought
play
we would
other
all get
games that you and I
together.
play together. So
Right,
Yeah,
me too.
I thought we would all get together, and that would be a game that we could play online, and it just
right, if you want to,
it's such a failure.
if you want to fill most of that itch, it doesn't have the base building or anything, but Fallout 76 barely has that. Just demolishes your base after you log off.
Right.
Destiny 2, they've launched. They recently had a free weekend. I replayed it. I went back. The new content's a lot of fun. It's still the same game. So I mean, if you didn't like the game concept, you're not gonna like it. But
Well,
it's
that's
the
another
game
game.
concept refined and improved.
That's another game for me that doesn't have story. It has lore. Oh, you can read these cards
That's-
or this or that.
That's
but
something they changed a little bit with 2. It's no longer go here, blow bad guy up. It's go here and blow bad
Right.
guy up because
well, that helps a little bit.
yeah.
But
it was. I would say that the story and the map, like setting up the map and like navigating and stuff like that, is much better in Destiny 2. But like the problem is that they're. I don't know if it's necessarily Bungie's fault or if it's all Activision, but it feels like Activision because I like to blame them
Yeah.
for everything. But it's like they released a game that again was unfinished when it released.
now
It's just
the difference
again, it
is Destiny was technically very good. The
Oh, yeah, yeah,
gunplay
And
and
it still
the look
is.
of it and the sound, like I liked the gunplay in it a lot. But I get bored with that if there's no reason for what I'm doing. It's like, oh well, I'm just shooting these nameless bad guys that look just like those nameless bad guys, and they all have stupid names like the Darkness and the.
I
can't
never
even remember.
tried Destiny 2 because I bought Destiny 1 like when it first came out, and I enjoyed it for like a week, and then I started to realize all these quests send you this to the same location, and it's just recycled
Yeah.
map usage, or
Yep.
or the instances were just recycled from each other. There's no
Right. They kind
Yeah.
of have
Exactly.
like an endless wave type mode now with like the forest or whatever it is. There's a lot of new interesting gameplay options. So I mean, again, uh, I like when a game company goes back and looks at their game and says, okay, this is what we've done. What could we do to improve the design, improve the experience, or, which in the end just translates to make more money. But
Well, exactly, and I got the feeling like Snack said, is it Activision or is it Bungie? I think maybe Bungie still has a little bit of passion there, but I feel like Activision looked at it and thought, "Oh, our cash grab way of doing this didn't really work out. We maybe need to give it a story because we didn't make the sales numbers we wanted to make." This industry is completely broken. What was the game recently that they just EA? It was Call of Duty. Um, or not EA, I'm sorry, isn't Call of Duty Activision?
That's
Where,
Battlefield you're talking
yeah,
about.
I'm talking about both because they both have failed in different ways. But
Mm.
Call of Duty and Activision, Call of Duty made a lot of money, and the shareholders for Activision were pissed because it didn't make the expectations. It made a huge amount of money for a video game, and
well,
like
video
Jim Sterling has said, they want to make all the money or they're not happy. And because of that, they're doing all these short sighted cash grab moves with these games instead of taking the time and doing the game right the way Rockstar has with Red Dead or the way CD Projekt Red does with, everything that they do. So it's two different
right.
ways of looking at the industry. Do we crank out a Call of Duty every year? Do we crank out a Battlefield every year and they get increasingly worse and we get increasingly more upset when they don't make the money as shareholders we expect? That
Well,
seems to be the loop that they're caught
the
in.
other reason they're getting worse is because and this was recently in a news item on, it was the way the working conditions. So you're not retaining quality talent because who wants to work for less money, more hours? I mean, I get it. A lot of people are passionate about video games. A lot of people get into programming and design to do that kind of work. But if you get into it and it sucks and someone comes up to you and says, you could program our business level, like our enterprise software, you can make, 30-40% more. You can have normal working hours and benefits and all this stuff. And, we'll
Right.
hire you now because of your experience. And who's going to stay? Who's going to stay there except for the top level guys? And then the top level
Well, I mean,
guys shovel shit downhill.
it's kind of the same way that like I feel like movies are nowadays. Um, there's so much like producer and upper management like meddling that the creative vision gets so skewed from what it originally was that it's just it ends up being like this flat, uninteresting project.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you hire. That's the Disney thing lately. Is you
Star
hire a
Wars.
director. Yeah, you hire a director that's known for
Ryan
having.
Johnson.
I'm not talking about Ryan. I'm talking about like Solo and all that. You hire a director that's known, or Rogue One. You hire a director that's known for having a style. He definitely has a way of doing things. You let him make the movie. He makes the movie. The execs look at it, they panic, they go, "Oh, well, this isn't the homogenous corporate crap that we were expecting. Let's bring in somebody else to reshoot 40-50% of the movie." That drives the cost of production up through the roof. So now you need to make even that much more to make a profit in the theaters, and now you've made a worse film that needs to make more money, and then, oh, it didn't do as well as we hoped. Now we're going to take no risks. And it's like, Kathleen Kennedy is we're getting a little off topic with films, but you're right. It has the same kind of thing where
Just
they're trying to do
mark it
this
down. It
mass
took about
appeal.
44 minutes for him to start talking about Star Wars. So that's pretty good.
It's
Well,
yeah. I think I do it in my
mean,
sleep.
I mean, like
Fuck Kathleen Kennedy.
look at like Diablo 3 on launch.
Yeah.
Like there's no way that Blizzard themselves was like the real money auction house is a good idea. It's a great idea, and we're gonna have a slice of the pie. No, that had to have been all Activision. There's no way. I don't believe it. I don't buy it at
Right.
all.
Hey, hey.
But you know what? The good thing about like it's like you said, they can go back and fix everything with these updates and stuff. The good thing about it is that people are starting to realize it, and they're starting to vote with their dollar. And I know that Blizzard went back and they just revamped all of Diablo 3, and they made it into an actually good game.
I heard
Yeah.
it's really fun on the
Well,
Switch, actually.
well,
I can attest. I
Battlefield
have it on the
5,
Switch.
Battlefield 5, the makers said, people were complaining about some of the aspects of the game which were starting to look pretty terrible, and they said, "Hey, don't like it, don't buy it." And you know what? Nobody bought it. The game's had terrible sales. So I think people are getting a little better and part of the reason why it's easier to speak with your wallet is because if a Battlefield game came out like every 3 or 4 years, I'd probably be pretty excited about it. And I'd probably buy it even if there was controversy. But the fact that there was Battlefield 1 last year, and now there's Battlefield 5, and next year there'll be Battlefield Vietnam or whatever version is coming out, it's like I can skip this one. If they pissed me off with the marketing, I just won't buy it. I'll play something else. Um, and I think more and more people are kind of waking up to that. Not to mention the fact that, with Steam and everything out there, there's always something else to play.
Right.
And I think that's why these cookie cutter games that they're just churning out every year is the wrong way to go. You compare that to Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a masterpiece. I don't think any of you have played it. I just beat it the other day, and I beat it. I beat it. I beat it.
You beat
Um,
it.
guys, I think I had a stroke. No, I beat the game, and I immediately started a new campaign. I can't remember the last time I did that, where I completed a game that I put 50 hours in and was like, you know what, I'd really like to play that again. Only this time, instead of being like the the knight of the plains, the glorious paladin on a horse,
You'll be
I'm
the
just gonna be
pill
a
rider on a
terrible,
horse.
yeah, terrible, horrible. If you've seen Westworld, I'm just gonna kill everyone and everything,
So you're
and I mean,
just
you
gonna.
can be sadistic in that game. You can
Does
rope somebody
does
up,
your
take them to a
paladin
river, and
throw
throw them in.
javelins?
He is a javelin throwing paladin. Um, no, but I mean,
God
you
damn.
you want to talk about a game that has insane levels of quality and what you can do and how every character is fully voiced and reacts to what you do in insane ways, and just the fact that you're like, I don't like this guy, I'm gonna rope him up, take him out to the middle of the swamp, and throw him next to an alligator. You can do that in that game. Um, it's the quality is insane. The amount of detail and love put into it is absolutely insane. And I mean, I was really late to The Witcher. I played The Witcher 3 this summer for the first time, and holy shit, that was a game that blew my mind.
Yeah, it's really good.
I bought it when it came out, and I never finished it, but I did like a week ago finally finish the original campaign, and I'm playing the DLCs now.
I'm still playing through the original campaign. My God, that's a long game.
Yeah, I beat
Because
the
I
original
put
campaign, and I'm working slowly on like the expansions. But I bought that
yeah.
on a sale that came with the combo, like the Game of the Year edition with all the content included. And I should have bought it when it came out. I didn't know if I'd like it, so I waited till it went on a sale.
I
And
got it full price on Steam. I paid $60 for the Game of the Year edition that had everything on it, and literally the next day it went on sale for $30. So I was a little
that's what I got it for.
upset about that.
Dope.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah, no, you can tell I haven't played Red Dead 2. I played Red Dead 1, and that was a great game. But like definitely The Witcher is a great example. I think The Witcher 3, there's a lot of great
well, and here's this is a little spoilery for Red Dead 2, but it's not really spoilery. It doesn't really come into play with the story. But when you beat the campaign in Red Dead 2, you start to ride around on your horse and realize that almost the entire map from Red Dead 1 is in the map. You can go there, like everywhere except Mexico. So the entire United States, so it like doubles the size of the map. And you're like, wow, the story never even took me here. But now that the game's over, I can ride out and, hunt antelope and, mess with Indians and, fight Mexicans and stuff down there. And it's like the fact that they put that in, that they included that in the game is incredible. Because the map was already one of the biggest maps I've ever played on, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, they re-rendered the entire first game.
Yeah. So I mean, we can. I mean, there's good stuff out there, and there's companies that have done a lot, a lot to earn good faith. There's, um,
Mm-hmm.
the updates, the quality initial releases, something that actually we just played today, Star Citizen, is something that's gotten a lot of press, both good and bad, for its bad press for its failure to deliver, and good press for the progress that it's making and the transparency that it's had. And it's another case of feature bloat, definitely. But
Yeah, I was gonna say that game is a prime example of the risks of feature creep
right, but if
because
you're
there's obviously talent there, but
if your goal is to create a game and you say we need $10 million to make this game, and then you raise $20 million, you're going, well, shit. We could take the extra 10 and run, or we could maybe let's make a $20 million game. And so far they've raised over 200 million. And so I think they've gotten past the feature creep for the most part.
I'm not
It's
I'm not convinced. I think now they're almost in a loop where they add new features or okay, we need to pay for what we just added because they still need money coming in. They've spent a lot of their money and they still need money coming through. And I think they've gotten into a loop from what I've read where, okay, we'll release another ship that does this new thing to get people to buy it, to raise money. Well, when you release the new ship, you're adding new gameplay elements, you're adding a lot of new coding, you're doing this and that, and it's not as easy as just like you're diverting resources instead of perfecting what you have. They're in this loop where it's like, well, we gotta put new things for people to buy so that we can continue to get funding. And I think it'll be interesting to see where it ends up. I'm not one way or the other on it right now. I kind of still lean toward pessimistic with that game.
right.
Um,
That's another game that
but
I don't load it up and play it on a weekly or even monthly basis. It's something that
well, there's nothing to do.
right,
There's not enough gameplay there to even
right.
do that. You
I
kind of
I just
load it up and you go, oh, it looks
I
different.
just follow development. I haven't loaded it up since I want to say around Star Marine being released, which was the first person shooter aspect of it. And I loaded it up earlier this week. They had a free fly event going on, and I was pretty blown away with their planetary landings and stuff like that.
I remember when Star Marine, I saw art assets that they'd stolen from Halo. The Star Marine on the picture was holding the assault rifle from
Yeah,
Halo 1 and 2.
yeah.
I was like, ooh,
Well,
that probably shouldn't have been released.
it's actually those things are kind of nods to other games because if you look at it, um, when you boot up the Arena Commander, it's EA, Electronic Access. It boots up for that because I think
Yeah,
that's a throwback to Wing Commander, if I remember
yeah.
right. But
Well, that was kind of his game at least.
yeah, right. But it to me they show a lot of progress, and even recently that progress seems to be picking up a pace. They've had a few big roadblocks with some pretty like technical aspects of it as far as getting performance out. I remember loading it up and crashing every 15 minutes, and the frames was terrible.
Well,
Um,
it seemed like they had picked an engine that was good at making pretty ships that they could sell, but maybe not so good for an MMORPG in space,
right.
you know?
Well, I haven't had any of those problems, with this recent release candidate. Sure, you've had crashes, but you expect that with quote unquote pre-alpha, which the whole industry's definition of alpha, pre-alpha, beta is totally skewed at this point in people's perception. But it's still I have more of a positive opinion of it than I have a negative one at this point, which could change. I'm not bought into it. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Well, what games are we excited for? Snacks?
Um, let's see. Games I'm excited for. I'm really looking forward to the remake of Resident Evil 2. I know it's not something we need, but it's something that I'm excited for. Um, as far as other games, I'm excited for Cyberpunk. That should be good. CD
I
Projekt
agree. I
Red.
think I
So
think Cyberpunk is the thing I'm most excited
I'm
for.
hoping that that's going to be good.
I'm pretty sure the other day they did a press release and they said that they were aiming for Red Dead 2 level of quality, which is a bold thing to say, right now with how that game's been received. And like, I honestly think that studio can pull it off though after seeing The Witcher 3. I mean, that's a lot of talented people that obviously really care about what they're doing.
yeah. What about you guys? What are you excited for? Anything else?
Webbed.
Um, upcoming games, I don't know. I haven't really thought much about what's coming out. Other than, I mean, Cyberpunk definitely. Um, Red Dead and a couple of those I want to get, but my brother has my Xbox right now. So I don't know. Is Red Dead on PC yet?
No,
No, it's
it'll
only on
eventually
console.
release on there, so they
Yeah, I mean,
can
I'd pick
take
that up
people's
when it
money
comes
a
out on the
second
PC.
time.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else is really coming out. I have my staples that I've been playing all the time with snacks and stuff.
Are
Like
you
I,
are you
I
gonna
always
get
go back to
Smash?
Dota and Counter Strike and that kind of stuff.
Uh,
But yeah,
one other
Smash.
thing
I
that
am gonna
realized.
get Smash.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Smash coming out. I just got Mario Party, Super Mario Party for Switch. It's okay. It's lacking from the old games,
Yeah,
but
it's not as good, but again, for playing together with people when they come over, I'm gonna be getting a second.
oh, it's great for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a second of the regular controllers so that you can essentially split both my controllers into four controllers to play four-person Mario
right.
Party and Smash
Yeah.
and all that. So, um,
That's what I did. I did that, and then I've got three Pro controllers for like Mario Kart and stuff, because Mario Kart's a lot more enjoyable with a Pro controller,
yeah,
I think.
I just
Because that's
I
a pretty good controller,
with my
honestly.
kids and stuff and paying for school, I feel bad just spending endless amounts of money on gaming things right now. So when I graduate, I'll
Yeah.
have a little bit more extra cash lying around to do that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
the hardware for the Switch is pretty pricey. I think
Yeah,
the two regular Joy Cons are what, $70, I think.
yeah,
Something like
yeah.
that.
The regular Joy-Con, if you buy it, it's $70. So
But they have a
I'm
lot of
also excited
functionality.
for I'm also excited for Sekiro, the new From Software game. I mean, I don't think any of you guys have played any like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or any of that.
No,
But
we're not masochists like you are. I
oh,
don't enjoy pain.
they're not that hard. Jeez.
Did you hear about the guy that went through and he played all the Dark Souls games? I don't know how many there are, but he played through without taking a hit, and he beat all. I think there's three. Are there three?
Yeah, there's 3 Dark Souls
And
games.
literally he played, and if he was in game three and he took a hit, he went back to game one and started over. And he finally, I guess he streamed this live, and I guess he eventually did beat all three Dark Souls without taking a hit.
And you call me a masochist?
Well, I mean that guy's just a god. I mean that's not a normal human thing to do. That's internet legend
That's
status right there.
weaponized.
I
That's
mean,
weaponized autism. That's what that is.
Yeah, something's wrong with that person, but also right, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. As far as games I'm excited for, I guess I would say not really excited, but more curious about BioWare's new game Anthem. Just curious because it looks, it's BioWare, man. You would
If
hope
it's
after
Chris,
Andromeda.
your
that used to
face
mean
says
something.
you're not.
Yeah, that used to mean
I
something.
want to
and then
be
Andromeda
excited
kind
for
of.
it, but it just looks like it's gonna be just like Destiny. And
If
I know you
if it's a
said you've
Destiny
enjoyed
clone,
some things about Destiny too, but
It looks like it has Destiny elements, absolutely. It's the whole looter shooter thing, but it looks like it has more. You have more options with like availability with like your movement and things like that, and that sometimes movement is all you need to set a game apart from something else. Take
well, that was the only
Titanfall
thing that
and
was good
Call of
about.
Duty, for
Yeah,
example. Titanfall
yeah,
2, amazing game. If you haven't played it, play it. But
yeah. Well, the only good thing about Andromeda was the jetpack and the fighting. The shooting was fun in Andromeda.
yeah, and I
The
think
story was complete
they
garbage.
recently had like some footage released, and there were people, pretty, I would say, reserved, but it kind of excited about it. But I don't know. I'm not again.
we'll see what the reviews are.
I don't get my hopes up too much about that kind of stuff.
With Andromeda,
I don't pre-order, so
BioWare is kind of on my shit list, which is very sad because
yeah.
I guess like one of the like best surprise oh, this game is actually really good games that I found was Mass Effect. I got it for free, like included with another game or something. It was like a free DLC. Like if you buy this game, you can get this. And I was like, sure, we'll try it out then. I ended up liking that way more than the other game that I bought.
Oh,
Like Mass Effect was
is one of the best
amazing,
games ever.
and
Yeah.
then Andromeda's just a piece of shit.
Yeah, it was. That was a game that had no soul and no direction, and just all right, well, we'll do another Mass Effect. We don't really know what we're doing at all, and we have a studio with a lot of people that can't even animate and stuff. But
Right.
sure, it'll be fine. We'll give it like our flagship series. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
And I should have known it'd
And
be good because I loved like Knights of the Old Republic and all that stuff.
yeah, well,
So,
Mass Effect was really Knights of the Old Republic like perfected, and especially by the time you got to two, Mass Effect 2 was like damn near the perfect game,
And
and
then
it
they
really
made
felt like.
three.
See, I liked three,
I
and
mean,
I
three was
thought
still
three.
fine.
I
There were
liked
some
Yeah,
three right up
issues.
until the end. That it was a
yeah.
problem for me that they boast all this different character development and things like that, and then you're given three choices and they all do the same thing more or less.
Well,
You know,
that I think if they had done the art differently, I think if they had shown if the cutscene had been something other than just three different colors, and I think if there had been a little epilogue too, I think that would have really helped people. But it
yeah.
was just kind of jarring. It was like, okay, there was a green explosion or a red explosion or a blue explosion. I was okay with the choices. I thought the choices were
I didn't
fine.
mind the choices.
Um,
What happens though is that it gives you this story and it tells you these are your choices and everything you do will impact how things turn out, and really it doesn't. You still
well,
The only time it
what
impacts it is if you can get the full fleet thing and then you get the third secret choice or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and that's what they needed more of is in the in the end, they needed like I went through a lot of effort in that game to get that final battle to be as prepared for it as possible. I had Black Sun, I had everybody coming to that fight, and I looked and like on other people they don't make any mention hardly of even what you did. I think there should have been drastically different cutscenes where if you come with a bare bones like just human fleet and no one's coming to help you because you didn't take the time in the game to like make any allies versus if you spent all the time to get everyone, there should have been a lot of difference at the
You
end of
should have
that
just
game.
been wiped out. You shouldn't even made it to the planet. You should have just wiped
Right.
you out and just said game over and just
Game
deleted your
over. The
save and you
Reapers
just
fry your Xbox.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, you know, that's but
And the reason why 2 was so successful is because at the end, the decisions you made, oh, did you not get the special armor for your ship? Oh, well, when you take this hit, you take a hit that kills one of the characters as he's walking down the hallway,
right.
and oh, you didn't like upgrade this girl's telekinesis power, like she can't stop the things from swarming you and she ends up getting eaten. That there was a lot of direct impact based on your choices and your ability in that game.
Hmm.
But
Right.
yeah, it's I'm kind of I guess I'd say like cautiously optimistic
Yeah.
about Anthem.
Yeah, we'll
Like
see.
but it needs to have a story. If it's like Destiny where there's lore but no story, it's going to be a complete flatline for me
Yeah. No, I
personally.
have to agree with you on that. But I don't know, something else I'm kind of again, this is more, interested, got an eye on kind of thing, is Crowfall, which is another one of those Kickstarter funded games. But this is an MMO style, and it's kind of interesting because you have your account, and then you bind to that account, different characters, right? And you can take, so let's say this next week is a campaign starting. You take two of your characters and you bind them to that next campaign. And then a week after that, a different campaign starts. You have a third character. You can send them to that one. Now those characters are bound to that campaign for the duration of it, but once that campaign ends, you get them back, and then you get to keep a bunch of the stuff that you earned during that campaign, and it's a very interesting take on the whole MMO style. It allows you to have more interesting character progression faster. You also have account bound character progression. It's I believe in like an offline style, similar to like Eve Online, and they seem to be doing a really good job. There's been a lot of new stuff coming out from them as far as progress goes. But again, it was I believe supposed to release the end of this year, but it's pushed back, and I think it's end of next year. They are in alpha testing, and they are about to start their first campaign. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, I don't think they have all the gameplay loops in yet, but they're still starting the campaign to kind of test how. I mean, you have to test it. You have to test how it works. So
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Okay, I think guys, there's one more thing that we haven't talked about and that we really need to is
That
loot
growth.
boxes.
Oh yeah.
um, and the fact that EA and some of these other companies have now pushed it so far that there's actually like talk of government
Well, not
intervention,
just
and in some
not just loot
places,
boxes, but
Belgium.
microtransactions in general. But yeah, loot boxes
See,
are a big one.
and loot boxes are a type of microtransaction. I am okay, and I've always been okay with, hey, we're gonna sell this thing, and if you want it in the game, pay us money for it, and you can have it.
Right.
It's not so great when it's pay to win, but even that, I can kind of understand. Is sometimes like okay to encourage people to buy stuff. Maybe you sell something that gives people a little bit of an edge, and they'll buy it. Maybe make it pretty expensive so the whole game doesn't get flooded with it. Whatever. Um, what personally has no what I think is really detrimental is this whole concept of loot boxes where you pay money and you don't know what you're going to get, and that's just gambling. That's all it is. I don't care what they say, that's just gambling.
Right.
And they say, oh, it's not gambling because it's not for a real world item, which makes no sense to me. You're spending real world money to get a digital item, but it's still an item. And they say, well, you always get something. Okay, well, maybe 9 times out of 10 it's something that's worthless or that to you is worthless, and if especially if you have no way of getting rid of it. um, I think that's, and they just did a study in England where they found out that young underage gambling is way up, and it's like, well, of course it is. We're training people to get addicted to that little loop in their brain of being excited about, am I going to get something? Am I going to get something? Oh no, I didn't get anything. Well, maybe next time.
Right.
Of course gambling's up. We've encouraged children. You know we've taught them from a young age now. It's like, oh well, you can get awesome stuff by you know throwing money at this enough times.
Walking out the
But
door every day is a big enough gamble. Like I don't need it in my games too.
yeah, no,
I gamble every time I order out.
I I the first game that it really started to bother me was I think it was Overwatch, where you could get loot boxes and you could pay for them and you didn't know what you were going to get. And it's like Overwatch had skins that I really liked. There were
The
some that I was like, I would
difference.
love to have that skin, and I couldn't buy it.
Here's my thing though. With Overwatch, it's not pay to win. They're just skins. And here's the thing, every
Right, it's
time you
all
level up,
cosmetic.
which like I still play Overwatch. I was just playing Overwatch before
Yeah.
we started this. You level up so fast, you get a bunch of skins. And there's many that I
Right.
don't have that I would like to have, but I refuse to pay money for the
Right.
And
skins
if you get
because I
duplicates,
earn
you
enough.
get
Right.
yeah.
Well, you don't get as many duplicates because they changed that because
Okay.
people were complaining
I know
about
there was
that.
a lot of
You
backlash
should
about
But
never
that.
get
again, it's
duplicates.
not pay to win,
That's
and
a
that's why I don't mind it because it's like a free little extra for me because I don't pay for it to
right.
earn things, and I'm not having to feel like I pay
And
to win.
But the
and
fact
And if
that
people
kids,
want to, like
but
I have a guy at work that loves to pay for loot boxes and like all the games that he plays because he has no
well, he's
kids and
addicted to
no.
gambling.
Well, I no, he just has a bunch of disposable income and he wants to have all the skins and shit. So he just buys all the skins and all
And
the
you know what?
games.
How much money is it going to cost them with that random way? Because somebody did the
I don't know,
calculation
man,
on
but like
Overwatch.
I
It's
don't
insane.
have that extra money that he has to pay for that shit, but he
Right.
does. So
But
and like
but in
Dota is
something
one of my
like
favorite games. You don't pay to
yeah,
win in Dota either. You don't. There's nothing
Well,
that you can pay for that makes your
right.
character more powerful. And
But these are
it,
different issues. The pay to win issue is independent from the we're training small children's brain to enjoy the kickback from a gambling experience, which is what they're doing, especially with like Fortnite and stuff.
I mean, I don't mind like the way Dota does it because or Steam does it because I don't pay for the loot boxes, but I have bought a couple skins that I like want on the cheap for like 20 cents or something
Yeah.
like that because you can resell them on the community market. So at least the people that are gambling for the loot boxes can make some of their money back by doing that. And then I can
Well,
pick up shit on the
right,
cheap
but that's where the
and
gambling
buy what I
aspect
want.
comes into it. Is you're not some of these people are not paying money in order to they're not paying money to get the skins. They're paying money to get the skin that is worth the high value so that they can resell it. And that
right.
was the big issue with a lot of these CS:GO gambling sites. and
Hmm.
people started to gamble skins, and then they could sell those skins for money. But because they were
But
Right.
again,
considered
with
a
CS,
And
you don't have to buy them to win. Like Snacks and I play a shit ton
right,
of CS
and
together,
again, that's
and
but
we
they
don't
that's a
were
buy
that's
any
an independent
skins.
issue.
they
And
were
I run around
Yeah.
with
using
the shittiest skins on my guns, but
Right.
But the
No, but
problem is they were using the skins as a replacement for money. They were saying there was a virtual item, so it didn't fall under the jurisdiction of gambling.
of
But they
gambling.
were using they were assigned monetary value on the Steam store, so you could gamble on these matches. You would
as
then get
far
the
as
skins
practices
and
by
then
the
sell
company
them.
though, like I don't care if they want
No,
to
but
sell
the
microtransactions and other people are stupid enough to buy them because I don't have to pay to do better at the game.
And again, that's different. Like I said, I'm fine with microtransactions too. Hell, on War Thunder, I've bought a lot of planes because they have premium planes that you can't unlock in the game. You just buy them. They're a lot of fun to fly. They're awesome. They're unique. That's one thing. But the problem is where, it's illegal for kids to gamble in a lot of these countries. And loot boxes in particular, not microtransactions, but loot box microtransactions where you are paying real money and you don't know what you're going to get is gambling. And so, like, that's the definition of gambling is you're putting money in and you don't know what or if you're going to get anything out. And the fact that these companies have tried to say like no, and the ESRB in the United States, which is basically just a front for the video game companies. I mean, they're there to protect the video game companies. That's why it was created, because the government said, "Hey, regulate yourselves, or we're going to come in and regulate you." And they said, "Okay, we'll regulate ourselves." But their statements about, oh, loot boxes enhance the experience. I think in their statement they said it enhances the experience like 4 or 5 times, and never once talking about like, oh,
Yeah, I'm
you
sure
could get
meth
nothing from
enhances
it.
a lot too, but that doesn't mean
Yeah,
people should be
it
doing
doesn't mean it's good
it.
for you.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So no,
I'll say
I
like
I
as
think
far as
think
Overwatch goes, I don't think they do like community skins, but like one thing that's kind of nice on Dota and some other Steam games is they put the skins in a loot box, right? But the persons who design the skins get a cut of the proceeds from them. So like that's not bad for people who like want to make skins for games they like to
and
play on the side.
plus I think I correct me if I'm wrong on this, Web, for the loot boxes for at least Dota. I assume Counter Strike, since they're both Valve. Um, like the when you get something in a loot box, you can't ever get that from the same loot box,
Yeah, well, until you've
right?
gotten all the things in the loot box. Other than
Right,
like
exactly.
they mark in Dota loot boxes like certain things in it, certain skins like very rare and like ultra rare. But even with that, the more you open, the higher chance you have of getting the other thing. So again, still gambling, and I still understand your point, but at least they're telling,
But it's
at
like
least
it's
they're
pseudo random at
it's
that
pseudo
point.
random, so they're at
it
least offering to
right.
A, not give you any duplicates of the regular ones, and B, be giving you higher chances of getting the rare items the more you open.
Yeah.
So it's
None
not
none of
just a
them should have duplicates, so that's a good thing because nothing's worse than like, oh, you get a loot box or something. And I'm not talking about one you pay for, but one maybe you unlock in the game, and it's like, oh, I already had that skin or something. That's the worst. I think the game that was one of the worst offenders was Battlefront 2, the new one that came out. That was all like you'd win a match and it would give you a loot box and be like, well, I don't play that class, so I don't want that. With the Battlefront games and the Battlefield games, it used to be like, oh, if I play with SMGs and I play with my SMG, I unlock things for my SMG. That was like a normal progression in a game. And now they've kind of moved on to, well, you'll get some random crap. Probably 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be something that fits your playstyle anyway.
seeing, but that's a problem for me. Like that's what I'm
Well, yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
Is like I don't like that shit. When you're doing that, I want to be able
Yeah,
to
When
play
your
what I
absolutely.
want.
microtransactions, when your gameplay is based around your microtransactions, your game
Right.
is, in my eyes, automatically shit.
Right.
Yeah,
Because like
exactly.
But that's why
when
I
Battle
like
when you,
Overwatch, Counter Strike, Dota. These games that I can play. I don't have to level up and hope that something is going to drop.
Right,
There's a lot of them. There's not even really a progression thing. So you don't have to worry about
right.
that. And as long
It's
as there's
based on how you
progression,
play.
but like it's like if you play with sniper rifles, you unlock the next sniper rifle, then that's fine with me. but don't have me be playing with a sniper rifle and then give me a fucking pistol. Like that's not what I
Right.
want.
And that's exactly what Battlefront did. And it's like, okay, I'm unlocking things I don't care about, even though I'm playing the class
Well,
that I
that's
do care
bullshit.
about. This is terrible gameplay design, you know? And that's why that
Plus,
game lasted no time, you know?
didn't
No.
it take like a really long time to level up to get like the
Oh,
next level of something?
insanely long. And somebody also calculated, like, if you were a completionist and you wanted to unlock everything, like, they did the math of with because there are alternates in that game. There's a lot of alternates in that game, and they did the math and they figured out like, oh, you play for 2,000 hours and you could maybe unlock all the initial content. You know, it's like, but that's designed that way. That incredible grind is designed to get people to spend money on the game to unlock a bunch of loot boxes to maybe get what they want. And again, that's gambling, and it's also terrible for, gameplay in general. So it's not all roses in video game land right now, unfortunately. I mean, there's a lot of good, but there's also a lot that needs to be changed. And it seems like, I don't know, it just seems like there keep being new issues, and a lot of the old issues are not going away.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
but
at least outside of like those, these are all multiplayer game problems, right? At least,
right,
well, I mean, we just talked about Bethesda with Fallout 76 and stuff. I don't know what's going to become of that. If they promise that they're going to fix some shit, so we'll see what happens. But like Fallout 4, the modding community, amazing. You could get a bunch of shit for free that like fixes issues with the
right.
games, adds extra shit to the game. Um, there's a lot of single player games like that where there's the option to do things like that. I enjoy those too. At least some of a lot of that stuff hasn't bled over into those types of things.
It's it's just a real shame that Bethesda is still relying on their modding community to fix their games. And it's like they even said what like why are you still using the same garbage engine? And they said, well, the modding community is really familiar with it. Well, maybe if you would make your game so that other people didn't have to fix all of your bugs, that some of them are easily fixable. Like you said, webs, people come in and they fix them, 2 days after release or something like that. It's like, okay, your dedicated team of developers couldn't fix that, but a modder could. Like, get out of here.
The worst part is they're like they've been making PC games for a very long time. So, like something like when Dark Souls got ported to PC, it was a very shoddy port, and they were like, "Well, we don't really have any experience doing this," and it's like, okay, they were like, we couldn't figure out a way to fix it. A modder fixes it within 24 hours of it being
Right.
released. But like, I give them a little pass on that because it's like they're you know they're used to developing on console. There's
Yeah.
and then
Bethesda
Dark
is
Souls
big
2.
enough and old enough that they
Yeah.
don't have any excuses. I don't cut them any slack. It's like, okay,
Oh yeah,
you need a
definitely
new
not.
Right.
engine.
Then hire that
Uh,
modder and let them do stuff. But
yeah, when a
Right.
modder comes in and does one of these big fixes, maybe put him on the team and maybe he can teach you a thing or two.
my
Why
only
he
counter
wouldn't want to
argument is
work
at
for him.
least they allow the option for there to be modders who can fix that shit. So if they're not going to do it, then at least we all can enjoy a fixed game with those mods.
But this is the problem with the whole, well, one of the many problems with the whole concept of Fallout 76 is uh, it's a multiplayer game. I don't know how we can
They
mod it.
are going to release standalone servers, I believe was the plan. Eventually
Okay.
release
Oh,
private
that
servers,
sounds good.
and then you'll have a modding community. And maybe
So
something will get fixed.
But here's the other problem too. I bought Fallout 4 multiple times. I bought two different editions for the PlayStation, and then I bought it for PC, and then I bought it again in VR,
You
which
have a
was kind of a
problem.
jip. I have a problem. I really liked that game, but that game, which is a couple years old now, was showing its age when it first came out, like looks wise and physics engine wise. I remember playing it and thinking like, yeah, it's better than Fallout 3, but compared to like Witcher 3 or some of these other games that have come out, it doesn't really look that good. There's a lot of problems with this engine and with this art style, and we're here, what, 3 years later, and they come out with a game that I think looks worse than Fallout 4. Like, it obviously has a lot of asset flips, but I haven't seen anything on the YouTube videos that I've watched for it that it's like, oh, that looks really cool, or that's a beautiful looking set, or something like that. The game looks like garbage. And, is this, they said they're going to use the same engine for their next two games?
That's my
Like,
problem. My problem isn't that they use it for this one. I understand that because it
They're
it
trying out a
helps
multiplayer function.
it helps to
They want to
yeah,
see
keep
how it
the
would work with Fallout. I
it
can
helps to
maybe
keep the
see
look
it.
homogenous too between recent games, right? Instead of
sure.
so you still kind of get that same feeling, but you are gonna do Elder Scrolls 6 and
Yeah.
Starfield with this engine? It's
Yeah, no,
no.
it's gonna look so. I don't think they can Frankenstein anymore onto this engine. I think it's gonna look and feel so clunky compared to Cyberpunk and Witcher 3 and Red Dead 2 and these games that have kind of set the bar, for and visuals aren't everything, and that's one thing that Bethesda's always gotten away with. It's like, okay, maybe the visuals aren't amazing, but the world building and the characters and the dialogue is always pretty entertaining. Even when Skyrim came out, Skyrim wasn't graphically,
It
amazing,
had
but
good
that world was
it
interesting. It had some good design of its
and
areas,
then
like you'd be up
modders
on a
made
mountain
it
and
beautiful, right? But
yeah,
again,
yeah. And then they came out with the HD version, which
right.
wasn't as good as the modder version.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like you can pay money for the HD version of it.
But
But
yeah, I mean that's kind of that's pretty it much, par for the
yeah, I think
course with games right now is, microtransactions and incomplete product. And it's
yeah,
you're seeing it time and time again, and they're making the same mistakes. But I don't know, recently there's been, there's some stuff coming out that hasn't had those issues, so maybe we'll see, I don't know, like a change in strategy. The issue doesn't really come down to the companies so much as it is um,
right.
the the stockholders and demanding higher profits.
Games being forced out too early.
And you're
You know,
cutting your nose off to spite your face.
yep.
It's you're gonna have to change that business model if you want to continue to be profitable. But people have short memories, man. I mean, you can.
Well, you would think at some point there'll be another collapse of the market, and what'll arise after that happens, who knows? But it seems like, you know, I think the companies that take their time and like Rockstar and come out with a game every couple of years that's really high quality will survive. And I think the companies that are grinding out, oh, we're gonna, on the same engine, we're gonna basically repackage the same game year after year. I think those are the companies that are really gonna suffer
Yeah. Well, you've
because people are
seen
just not gonna buy them
Battlefield sales are down by, I want to say, over
massively.
half.
60,
Call of Duty sales
65%.
were lower, so
Yep.
they have to
I
explain.
think people are catching
Yeah,
on. People are catching on, and there's so much more. I don't want to say because it's not all positive. There's a lot of like player feedback or public feedback that they get now from like somebody starts a Reddit thread on something that EA sent out this tweet about their game, and everybody's up in arms about it, and then
right.
it forces them to backpedal and
Like
fix things.
Blizzard's.
It's a double edged sword.
Well,
Really.
you guys all
It
own
really
phones,
is.
right?
Yeah, we all own
Oh,
phones.
shut
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, that was.
Oh,
I'm not a
can you think of a more disastrous
no.
reveal? I
That
don't
was
Yeah.
know.
painful to
They were
watch. And
literally shocked too. Like people were mad and they
yeah,
were like, "What?"
They didn't.
well, I'm
Yeah.
not a Diablo fan. I don't really
Oh,
like
I
any
love
of the games.
Diablo,
I know you
and
guys all do. And even as somebody that wasn't a Diablo fan, like watching that whole conference at the end of BlizzCon was just painfully cringy. Like I can't believe they're doing this. Like, is this really happening?
well, I
Is
can't
this real
believe that how
life?
they reacted to it.
Right?
Like instead of just being like, oh yeah, like there was the one guy who asked the question like, are you gonna is there a plan to pull this to PC? And they were like, well, it's a fully developed mobile game, blah blah blah. So there's no plan for it, and everybody's like booing. And instead of saying, you guys don't all have phones, you could have said, oh, is that something you guys would be interested
Right.
in? Maybe we can work on that.
Yeah, and that would have really appeased the crowd and like
Even if you have no desire, no
yeah,
plan to work on it, you
just
could
get
at
out of the
least
room.
just get out of the room. Exactly.
You would think. But I've heard there's a rumor, and I have no idea if this is true, but I've heard the plan was to do a Diablo 4 presentation, and
Yeah,
maybe
I
they
heard
felt
that,
they weren't ready or it
and they
didn't work
backed
out,
out. Yeah, that's what
and
I
they
heard.
backed out of that, and then they were like, well, we do. Well, they were always going to present this mobile game, but it wasn't going to be what they ended the conference with. Like their big keynote. Okay, everybody, get excited for our Chinese crap knockoff mobile game. It's like how insulting. They ruined Webbed, you talked about your love for Command and Conquer, and they ruined Command and Conquer by making it a mobile game. They kind of ruined it before that,
Yeah, I
but
haven't even
that
tried
was the
that thing on
oh,
mobile
don't
because
worry, it was the last nail in the coffin. It was really
you
bad.
know it's.
Well,
I
like,
hear that they're
oh, go
gonna
ahead.
do like a remastered version of one of them. So we'll see. I mean, I would have put Warcraft 3 Reforged as like my end note for that for BlizzCon, to be
Yeah,
honest with you, because I'm a little bit hopeful for that anyway. It, from what I've seen of it in some videos I've seen, it looks like they are like doing a good job remaking Warcraft 3. So like I'm probably gonna buy that and check it out.
oh yeah, I'll definitely get that too. I really liked Warcraft 3.
That I even actually
Um,
Yeah.
saw something that said that the if you know anything about Warcraft 3 and World of Warcraft lore, the culling of Stratholme mission where like Arthas first kind of starts down his dark path.
mhm.
Spoilers. Um, they the Stratholme city in Warcraft 3 was looked nothing like Stratholme does in World of Warcraft as far as the layout and all that stuff. There's even like rivers and shit running through it in Warcraft
Yeah.
3. Um, I read that they are going to redesign that level so that Stratholme looks like Stratholme does in World of Warcraft, like layout wise.
Oh, that's kind of awesome.
Oh, that's
To
actually
kind of
really cool.
So
that's something that you can tell they care if they're going into that kind of
right,
detail.
yeah, they're
That's
completely redoing
pretty
that mission.
interesting.
So I mean, you know, again, these are positive things that you could have said in your BlizzCon conference to appease people and ended the conference with.
Yeah.
But
I think the only more disastrous response I've ever seen to somebody asking like a critical question was the when they revealed the Xbox One, and
Oh,
they were talking about backwards compatibility, and the response was, well, we have a thing for that, it's called the Xbox 360, you could just buy that instead. And everyone was like, oh no,
Yeah.
no,
that was another
no.
I mean,
disastrous
I mean,
conference, and
Blizzard missed the ball with Immortal, and even Todd Howard when he was doing his Elder Scrolls Blades, their mobile game, which just got pushed back. Um,
yeah, it's probably not
they
the time to release
revealed
something.
Blades, and then they went back and they were like, also here's a teaser for Elder Scrolls 6, and here's a little teaser for Starfield.
Right, round it out
They're
with
like,
something
we know
else.
that that's not what you want to see, but we're making it.
Right.
We hope you enjoy it. It's a game, and then
Yeah,
but also here's the things that you want.
right,
All the Diablo team had to do
Like,
was put a fucking picture of Diablo, like and like
Diablo
just say
4
in
with like
development.
like a hand holding up four claws,
coming soon
like
or something.
literally
Right, yeah,
that's all
yeah.
they had to do. People have been like,
Yeah.
cool,
Like,
play
oh
Immortal.
my god,
Token.
Diablo 4
yeah.
is
Okay,
in
cool. Yeah,
development.
Immortal will tide us over. Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
that's what. There was something else that I saw where that was exactly what someone's suggestion was. Is they
all
said,
because
you know,
because they'll-
just put a do like what Bethesda did. Put a teaser up there and just let people know, hey, it's on the horizon. It might not be as soon as you want it to be, but
It's
we're
coming.
right. It's coming, and we want to make sure we do it right. So that's why we're not presenting anything to you right now. So hopefully, Immortal will tide you over. Bam,
right.
done.
Because
like,
all it does,
how hard is that?
Their refusal to acknowledge that, it just what it sounds like is they're just deaf to their audience, and nobody wants to um, buy products from a company that doesn't seem like they listen or pay attention to their audience. And
Disney Star Wars.
right, and
Oh,
that's why I haven't
sorry.
seen Han Solo. That's why I'm not excited.
I will say,
for the
I will
next
say,
movie.
sidetrack, since you brought up Solo. Everybody heard it. He brought it up. I didn't.
Yeah, that's
uh,
You drew first blood though. That's
I will say that Solo was significantly, like, way, way better than The Last Jedi. But so is rectal
but that's
cancer.
that's not. I
It,
mean
I,
the bar is so low that
I
that's
sat
not
and
much
watched
praise.
Solo, and other than a couple really cringy moments, snacks like where they had to explain this is how he got his blaster, and he nicknamed Chewbacca Chewie by going, "Hey Chewie, I'm not gonna say Chewbacca because that takes too long." Like, other than some moments like that where they really explained some things that didn't need explaining, I think we all in our head canon could have filled that in, that Chewbacca's hard to say, so that's why he calls him Chewie, like a nickname. Um, Other
What was
than
the
that,
last name one too? Wasn't
Well,
there a last
you don't
name?
even need to explain
oh,
that though.
that was the
You
worst.
don't even need to explain.
That was the worst. Uh, uh, where they go, what's your name? Han. What's your last name? Who are your people? I don't have any people. Okay, Han Solo. No,
That's
like
not how
what?
that works.
That's not how
Right.
you get a last name. Like, I mean,
Well, I mean,
I
like
guess long
he,
enough ago, they like, what do you do, John? Oh, I'm a smith. Okay, John Smith. But that was in like feudal times, not when we have spaceships and I assume space social security numbers and stuff like that.
If we're gonna
right.
talk about Star Wars for 2 seconds,
We're
by the
not.
way, I think there's
No, we are. Do it.
no, like the expanded universe. Like he has a whole bunch of family on Corellia, so I
Yeah,
don't understand why this movie didn't
Because
talk
the
about that.
expanded
They
universe doesn't
revamped his whole.
because
exist.
I know,
because
I
they
know. It
think
just
you're an
that's why I'm
idiot.
pissed. That's why I hate new Star
They took
Wars. So I'm done
Because
now.
they
they
think
took an
you're an
Infinity
idiot.
Gauntlet to the
Oh,
expanded universe, and it's gone.
They
yeah,
yeah they took it twice to it. They didn't even leave half.
yeah.
Yeah, they were just like, we'll just do a final cleanup. It's fine.
Snaps.
I just
Leia doesn't
so
feel
sad,
so
so
good.
sad.
Oh,
Aw.
oh, that's too
Miss
soon.
Organa.
Carrie,
Don't
Carrie
worry, she'll
Fisher,
just pull
no.
herself back.
Oh. All right, guys. I think we covered the state of gaming in 2018.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you for listening, and catch us next week when we talk about snacks genital warts.
There's a
They're
lot to
huge.
cover.